Yo, Fiago, I want to buy my new team on Sorare for next season. Should I buy this player, this player, this player? Will this player get a transfer? Is this club going to get relegated? Will they get top 4? A lot of people are asking me these questions right now. You want to plan your teams on Sorare for next season. A season that will be massive for all of us. You might have already played for a while, or you might invest your first money into it. Anyway, you don't really know who you should go for. So let's start this. I'm going to show you players and teams that I think are really worth at least having a look at right now and maybe buying them for your team next season. Those are teams that you don't have to sell your parents' house or your grandma's car for, but you can actually afford them with little budgets. In other words, bargains. Let's get right into it today with 3 Bundesliga teams. As you know, my biggest knowledge is in German football, so I've selected 3 clubs for you that I think will do well next season with 5 players each that could really pay off over 2022-2023. Talking about Bundesliga, I'm already wearing the perfect shirt, right? I think I've really built 3 nice teams for you, starting with the first one. As you see, it is a Dortmund stack. We've got 5 BVB players here. Let me explain. Why am I choosing BVB, considering last season they were one of the most inconsistent clubs? Well, they still finished second, but on Sorare it was really hard to do anything with Dortmund stacks. There was only few players who basically always consistently performed. Jude Bellingham was probably the most consistent one. Erling Haaland, amazing when he played, but injured a lot of times. Under Marco Rose, it was really a pain in the ass to have a Sorare team of Dortmund. But now Edin Terzic is taking over again. You might remember caretaker manager in the first half of 2021. He really managed to steady the ship at Dortmund and also won them the DFB Pokal. Last season he worked in the club behind the scenes, and now he's officially the head coach again. And that's one reason why I'm really confident Dortmund are gonna do way better than last year, which doesn't mean they will finish higher on the table. I'm not saying they will finish first, but at least way more consistent. And of course also due to their transfers. They've now signed Nico Schlotterbeck and Niklas Süle for the defense, 2 center backs who play in the German national team. I think there's no way their defense is not going to be way better than last year, and they have to concede less goals than last year. So that's also why I'm really convinced of Gregor Kobel, their goalie. In my opinion, one of the brightest young goalkeepers in the world. Of course, on Sorare his scores didn't look insane because last season he barely kept any clean sheets, and that was not on him but mostly on his defense. So that's why his scores should really improve. Then in defense, of course, you could pick Schlotterbeck or Süle, which I just talked about, but I think value for money wise, Rafael Guerreiro is probably the best one. He's only a little over 30 euros right now, and I think he is a star player. Of course, last season you see here he didn't really play that much because he's also been injured a lot, but I think for 30 euros it's worth taking the punt that he's gonna play a fit season, because when fit, this man can be world class at left back, left midfielder. He's amazing. I'm a big fan of Guerreiro. While Schlotterbeck of course scores better, but he's 500 euros, and Süle I think also above 200 euros as of right now. As we want to keep the teams relatively cheap, I picked Guerreiro here because Jude Bellingham is by far the most expensive player in this team, 400 euros roundabout. But I think if you're going for a Dortmund team, even if you want to save some money, I think you can't go wrong with Jude Bellingham, and you can't get around him. 18 years of age and already Dortmund's best player. He's also the most consistent one by far, and imagine if he gets a transfer in 2023 or 2024. I'm really convinced his price has a way higher ceiling, so I would go for him. And then it became a little bit tricky. Forward, I went for Donny Malen. Of course, he doesn't have the numbers to show yet. His first season was rather average, but I think you always need to give players a second chance in a second season, because that's often when they start performing really after having adapted. He's only a little bit over 100 euros, so I think that's a really good value for money. Of course, you could go for Karim Adeyemi, who is 350 euros. I'm not sure. There, it will be his first season in the Bundesliga, and you might have the same phenomenon that Donny Malen experienced last season. So for this bargain team, I would rather go for Daniel Malen. And then, of course, the extra player. You can pick any position here. I went for Julian Brandt, also only a little bit over 30 euros, and I think he played a great season. I think got 9 goals and 8 assists in the Bundesliga or so. He finally seemed to have found his spot in this Dortmund team, also shown by the fact he finally played 88% of the last 40 games. An alternative here, you could of course also go for Marco Reus, who is a little bit over 100 euros. Emre Can could also be a nice addition for 20 euros or 15 euros. So if you want to play a Dortmund team, look around here who can still be picked up. I wouldn't go for Mats Hummels. I wouldn't go for Akanji because he's probably gonna leave. I wouldn't go for Axel Witsel because he is leaving. But there's a few options for sure. Dahoud could be interesting. But this would be my selection. 5 players, value for money wise. And these 5 players combined cost 884 euros right now. Below 1000, of course, also due to the current Ethereum drop. But of course, that means if you're just starting Sorare now, then in euros, dollars, pounds, then you can get bargains. Good players are much easier to pick up, and that could be a great chance right now. This is of course unlimited, and you would have actually won a tier 1 limited card if you would have lined these 5 players up together in game week 206. Not quite sure what game that was, but I would assume, seeing these scores, that Dortmund got a big win there. Tier 1 limited can easily be like 300-400 euros. So in this case, you could have already got half of the price back in just 1 1 week. So once these 5 are actually fit and play together way more often, combined with the fact that I think Dortmund next season will keep way more clean sheets, which is better for Kobel and Guerreiro, then I think these 5 will get way more good rewards than they have got in the last season. So I think this team is really interesting. If you say, okay, I have around 1,000 euros to go into Sorare, then yeah, why not? Maybe you are saying, okay, I don't have 1,000 euros or 900 euros in this case. Can you not show me anything cheaper, Fiago? You said bargains, and 900 euros is still a little bit too much for me. Don't worry, I got you. Here we have a Borussia Mönchengladbach stack. My local team, the team that all of my friends support. Not me, but I would still claim that I have quite a good knowledge about the club. And Gladbach over the last 10 years have usually been a team playing in the Europa League and Champions League. Played in the UCL round of 16 in 2021 still. Last season though, for their standards, was very disappointing. They only finished 10th in the Bundesliga, far away from the international spots. And that's why most of their players don't have amazing scores on Sorare, and that of course also made them cheaper. And I think they're gonna do better next season. They also fired their manager Adi Hütter. Now they've got Daniel Farke, who some of you might remember from his time at Norwich City. I'm pretty convinced they will get at least a single-digit spot, so top 9. Depending on the transfers they make, I could imagine them being 7 to 9 probably. But they still have a few players who pretty much always perform. And there, of course, you've got to mention Jan Sommer, who, look at the price, in my opinion, one of the biggest bargain goalies in the game. 140 euros. And his fellow countryman Gregor Kobel, also Swiss, is more than double that. Of course, he's around 10 years younger, but Sommer is still Switzerland's first choice goalkeeper. World Cup players will be in demand once the World Cup starts, so you can also use him there. And the same goes for defender Nico Elvedi, also Swiss, also a starter in the Swiss national team, and a key player for Gladbach, who usually gets solid scores. Then, in my opinion, the most interesting player and best player in this team, in this whole Gladbach squad, Jonas Hofmann. He, despite the fact that Gladbach were disappointing, played the best season of his life, maybe even. He's starting to get a great reputation under Hansi Flick in the German national team, see his recent scores, and he might also start at the World Cup at right back for Germany. The 90 euros, I think, are very well spent here, and we're continuing with international players, Breel Embolo. Another Swiss Gladbach player. Yes, Gladbach do like Swiss players, and he's also probably going to start up front for Switzerland at the World Cup, or at least always get subbed on. So here you don't only have 4 players who start for Gladbach and could perform better than last season, or will probably, but at the same time also 4 players that will all get playing time at the World Cup. So if you want to build a Gladbach stack, these 4 I would always go for. And then the extra player is a little bit tricky. I decided for Quadio Kone. He had his breakout season last year as well. Was, alongside Hofmann and Sommer, I would say, one of the few guys that gave Gladbach hope last season. He's extremely young, but already at his age, he seems so mature, dominates that midfield. And this is the type of player who I could see in 1 or 2 years go for like 40 million plus to a really big club. Otherwise, there's also Flo Neuhaus, who is only 40 or even 30 euros. Usually he's a nailed starter for Gladbach. He's also pretty consistent, and that would make the team a little cheaper as well. But if you want to take a punt on that future potential for Kone, then go for Kone. Lars Stindl, Gladbach's captain, is a value pick maybe. If he's fit, he plays. Only 8 euros. But let's say in this scenario we take Neuhaus here. The team would cost 351 euros right now, which is significantly cheaper than the almost 900 of the Dortmund team. Of course, you don't get European football and you get slightly weaker scores, but here the argument for this team really is you think Gladbach will perform better and more consistent than last year. If you also think that, then I think the around 300 to 400 euros for this team are very well spent as well. Honestly, you would just need one big, like 4-5-0 Gladbach win, and you could already get a 300 or 400 euro tier 1 card, and you've already got your whole money back while still keeping the card. But now if you still say these almost 400 euros are a little bit too much, or you don't have trust in Gladbach, let's get to my favorite pick, my favorite team for next season to watch out for in the Bundesliga, and that is even cheaper than Gladbach. VfL Wolfsburg. You might probably know that I own a Wolfsburg stack in rare, and I'm keeping that for next season as well. So of course I am more than convinced in Wolfsburg. Let me present to you guys the limited team here that I've built for you. Koen Castells, Maxence Lacroix, Maximilian Arnold, and Lucas Mecha. I own all of these 4 in rare. I bought Lucas Mecha recently. Yes, I haven't shown you yet probably, but I did. Here he is. I'm really hyped to play him. And in this scenario, I still added Riedle Baku as the extra player. The overall cost of this team currently, if you were to buy all the best market prices without even making lower offers, 299 euros, you could get this right now. For the extra player, you could also pick, instead of Riedle Baku, maybe Xaver Schlager. Got a pretty serious injury last season. Now he's back, and he is a very, very bright star in midfield for them. You could go for Sebastian Borneau, who I own in rare as well. But in this scenario, I went for Baku because he seems to be on the rise again too. But why did I even choose Wolfsburg? Just because I own a Wolfsburg team and I want to convince you to buy it too so we can suffer together? No, I actually have really, really big hopes for Wolfsburg next season. season, because last season very inconsistent. You can see this here. Once they got 400 plus points, tier 1, which by the way could have already made that whole money back for you. We talked about that earlier. But there was also other days when they only got 194 points together. Anyway, now they're getting a new manager, Niko Kovac. And wow, that's a big name. He used to manage Bayern, semi-successful, but last season he was at Monaco and I think he did a great job. For a team like Wolfsburg, he is amazing. He proved that at Frankfurt. He played physical football, won the DFB Pokal with them, and I think Wolfsburg is a team perfectly matched up with his abilities as a manager. They finished 4th in the Bundesliga the season before last season with a very physically solid and strong playing style. That's exactly what Kovac can do. Last season they finished 12th under old manager Florian Kohfeldt, so now under Kovac, if I have to make a prediction, I would even say top 8, and they could challenge for the European spots again. Not Champions League maybe, but Conference League, Europa League. I think they're in the race. You don't get international football either, just like with Gladbach, but I somehow have a feeling that under Niko Kovac, Wolfsburg's ceiling in the Bundesliga is higher next season as Gladbach's. And they're even cheaper. So if I had 300 euros right now and want to start my Sorare journey, I think these are the players that I would go for. And once again, if we look at the historical scores, I think it's very interesting because even though Wolfsburg was so inconsistent, you can see that here, in one of their weaker seasons, they still got you enough rewards. Tier 2 limited here, of course tier 1 here, tier 3 here, and another tier 2 here. So even last season, this team probably made more than 300 euros in rewards. Of course, all of these players were initially more expensive, so I think if you're just starting Sorare now, it's a great price. Yes, guys, these were my 3 clubs to watch out for in the Bundesliga next season, and thus, of course, 3 stacks that I could recommend you to build next season. As always, no financial advice, just my completely honest and transparent opinion. And now let me know, which of these 3 do you think is the best value for money? Which of these 3 would you go for, or would you maybe change up one of these? Maybe replace one player? Let me know your opinion on these in the comments. Maybe you've got other ideas for teams that I should have a look at and present them to you in the next episode of this series, bargain teams to watch out for, preferably also outside of the Bundesliga. And if you still want to start Sorare fresh for next season, which will be exciting, then make sure you use an affiliates link. If you want, use mine first in the description. That way you will get a free limited card once you've bought 5 of the new auctions. You know how it works. Just make sure you use any affiliate link so you get that free card. The hype for next season on Sorare gets bigger and bigger, and I'm seeing you guys in the next episode. Sorare Fiago is out. Good luck, managers. Peace.